No, no, no. If they would have just said stand back.
People with water bottles? Why?
Yeah.
But you know what? I'll be back.
Every day.
My dad grew up in the United States in the 1960s. Being a Puerto Rican, moving to the United States. He went through all this shit.
Do you think that the protests will continue to grow?
Absolutely.
Yes. I think more people will start to see, but the only thing they show on the TVs is them tear gassing us or one graffitied place. That's not what was happening here today. I marched all the way to 26th and back because that's what I believe is what we should be doing.
What do you think should happen with both Breonna Taylor shooting and now Mr. Dave McAfee? What should happen?
They should be prosecuted. The ones responsible, all the way up. Everybody.
Taylor's boyfriend should be released.
Charges against him have been dismissed. They have been dismissed.
We've been here, so we didn't know.
I've got a dead phone. It's in the car, like 2 blocks away.
Kenneth Walker, sir. They've been dismissed. So you all believe that these protests will grow and continue?
Yes.
As they should.
In smaller cities now, I think maybe in the town I grew up in where there was only a few African American men, I see people growing up though, and they're going to get angry. They're going to have friends. We all have friends. All races are waking up and saying enough is enough.
What do you say to those who are concerned? There is a contingency out there in this community who are concerned about looting and violence against property. What do you say to them when they say, look, this has gone too far, we saw the smashed up windows downtown? What do you say to those folks?
I say that I don't actually see that happening down here very often. I see more police in the media controlling it and putting it. That's not what's happening.
Don't punish the deeds of many for the mistakes of few. The people that have done that should actually be called out between the people in the protest also.
I did see a lot of individuals, when folks were trying to vandalize, stop them. So you even though you've been tear gassed, is this your first time being tear gassed?
Yes, actually.
So even though you've been tear gassed, you intend to come back out?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Always. Till something changes. No peace, no justice.
Thank you very much, you all.
Thank you
very much. Well, again, I think here at 6th and Jefferson, tear gas is not fun. I'll tell you that. I mean, I don't care how much pepper you like on your steak. You don't want that. But it goes away. And as these folks are saying, they will continue to be out here. We saw the largest protesting about Mr. Dave McAtee's shooting that have not been answered. Why were police using a no-knock warrant against Breonna Taylor when they were looking for mail? Why were the National Guard and others at 26th and Broadway yesterday? A lot of questions need to be answered. A lot of demands are still out there, both on the mayor and even the governor. But clearly there was a little more lax, at least in the beginning. But tonight ended very much in the same way the other nights ended, which is there was eventually a tired attitude from the police and National Guard, and they decided to deploy tear gas and other tactics to disperse the crowd. I did not see any acts of violence or destruction of property, but they were here beyond the curfew. As you see, there still are SWAT lined up, pushing people out. You have they're now shooting rubber bullets. They're now shooting rubber bullets. So again, shooting rubber bullets indiscriminately, not necessarily choosing between activists and the press. That fits in line with what we've seen these past few days. Yep. Yep. So again, Excuse me, folks. Excuse me. So again, we, not necessarily sure what specific act engendered or created the response from SWAT, but certainly something occurred, or maybe it was just a violation of the curfew. So we shall see what happens next. But I think the SWAT certainly did an effective job of dispersing the crowd. But again, the crowd was occupying Jefferson Square. Certainly was occupying Jefferson Square. But there wasn't necessarily any vandalism or destruction that we had seen. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't any. But again, the largest protest you certainly have seen of the 4 nights that protests have occurred. We're now at 5th and Liberty, so about a block up, a block over. More canisters seem to be flying now. And you still have a smattering group of activists and protesters out here. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, they're shooting from the roof. Okay, let's move. Okay, so they're deploying chemical weapons and shooting from the rooftops of Metro Safe. Whatever they can do at this point to disperse the crowd. Whatever they can do to disperse the crowd. That canister of pepper spray, of tear gas, hit that one guy right on the shoulder, right upside the head. While these folks might be making a valiant effort, it may be a losing battle at this point. But as we heard, there are people who have endured. I got a man on crutches out here. That's how dedicated some people are. Man can't even walk fully out here. Another canister. And again, people who have been pepper sprayed and hit with rubber bullets today, telling us at the Courier-Journal that they intend to return. So if this is going to continue, the question is, where does the valve let out? What are the necessary steps that could quell some of this? And if you talk to the people out here on the streets, they'll make it pretty clear. The firing, the charging, and the arrest of these officers, the questions about the body cam footage or lack thereof, those questions don't go away with the deployment of tear gas tonight. In fact, one would argue that maybe those questions are even enhanced. Because now there seems to be almost both sides sort of increasing the other. Because we've seen over these past 4 days the crowd size increasing, not decreasing. The tactics by police of deploying tear gas and curfews, pepper spray, flashbangs has not decreased their energy. If anything, it's increased.
Has again splintered.
It's like SWAT police have stopped advancing.
Later in the evening.
I'd say there's about less now than maybe about.
Well, they could about 100. everyone. It's 9:25. We have 35 minutes until curfew.
Let's not get distracted by the conversation.
Aaron Abston right here is addressing the group.
These policies.
Let me know. Let me know.
Hey, does anybody got a shirt?
So again, I mean, everything's going across the board. I mean, you can't
hear Abston say that they have milk.
Commerce folks to see every storefront boarded up across the city. Heavy LMPD contingent there at, what is that? I think 4th and Jefferson. So again, there are activists were sort of moving out, moving away. And it'll also be interesting to see if activists up their game. You know, there was an attempt to use leaf blowers, which you saw used in Hong Kong protests against the companies in China to push back any tear gas. I saw some folks here with umbrellas today. Certainly they've mastered the water bottles and Maalox and milk to wash out their eyes. But if this crowd continues to balloon, particularly after what happened this morning, which I'm on the street here, if things continue to balloon, will we see LMPD, will we see the National Guard increase or strengthen their tactics? We're not in the future making business. I'll tell you that all. So I don't know. I think we're, like I said, tonight seems like it's died down. We may still hear. We're keeping our ears open. Smattering reports of pockets of protests that can still be going on. Like I said, Sarah Ladd's down there at 26th and Broadway. They can still be going on now. But the main bulk of that colonel almost turned into a bit of a stunt man, bumping into everything. Right. So again, this is Philip Bailey, political writer here at the Courier Journal. I want to sign off real fast, but we'll certainly keep you informed on what's going on here in downtown Louisville.
Talking to everybody, see what's going on. I'll try to keep this going. All right, guys, this is the fun part. To go bit of a hide and seek, try to regroup. You kind of see lots of pockets of people split up. Everyone, I don't know if they have some way of communicating with each other. They do tend to come back together, but that could be different tonight.
That's Rob Brown. What is a Raiders cap there?
Wow, yeah. It's because they're tear gas. Tear gas the virus last like 2-3 days ago. I'm not sure the turkey gets that. Right. Definitely crazy thing to cover in this time. Tear gas from helicopters? I don't think so. Man, I was standing my ground so hardcore then.
You hear Rob Brown talking about milk in case tear gas is deployed.
What are you supposed to do? Where'd you park? Oh shit, I parked by the office. Yeah, I'm way like up there too.
So we're still talking here at 2-1 Papa Shop at the light. It's about 30 minutes before curfew.
I don't know where my wife is at. Let's see. Regardless, I wouldn't mind trying to share a cab with
You can see Absence carrying a gas mask in his hand.
Women, you get behind a man. But hold on. Women, get behind a man. All of those cops. I'm not talking about the ones with the artillery. I'm talking about the cops that are just coming and talking shit. That's when every woman steps up. Because one thing is for sure, they will hold all caution when looking at all women. Remember that. I will stand in front of you if your goddamn pussy is scared. Excuse my language.
Shit, they just hit the siren.
Real talk. All right, so real quick, y'all. The nursing stations is probably gonna be over there in that area. So, like, if you happen, we're looking for that area. I'm trying to get a specific area. Y'all gonna be able to see them set up along the sidewalk. The other thing is, they talked to the sheriff's department earlier. The sheriff's department said that the 10 o'clock curfew will not fuck with them being released. Like, as far as people that need to come out of there. The sheriff's department also said, they didn't say that this was like, they making this statement, they were saying, I can't find a way that they would be mad if people were sitting out here waiting to take people home getting out of jail. Exactly. So what they told them to do was go wait in their parking lot. So in my head, I don't know about nobody else.
and waiting to get people out of jail. I'm uncertain what the plan is at this point. We're going to stay here live.
Hey, so just in case.
Black Lives Matter. They're trying to kick us out of here. We're not going nowhere. Nowhere. Free our people.
They've already said that they only want to make you out here making people go. So if they do come and ask everybody first, I'm asking y'all to go over there and talk about it. Don't antagonize, don't talk to people, make people roll up, people act like they not even there. We don't really kiss y'all. That's serious enough. But if they do feel like it's in order,
Okay. So what you just heard was Sarah McAreg, one of my colleagues at the Commercial Appeal. Our editors are telling us to put our helmets on and our safety glasses.
There's multiple helicopters above us. I'm not going to repeat what he said. He said a couple of N-bombs.
we gotta go left to right. That's the rise.
Yeah, I think the door is barricaded. Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, it's barricaded with pallets, but I'm not sure if the store did that to protect the store, or if the looters did that. They were already there. Okay, cool. Thank you, Stephanie. Perfect. Yeah, then it was the store that did it. Smart, though. Oh, there we go. They're moving in. Wow, look at this. LAPD officers climbing through all of the things that were blocking the door here at the pavilions on Melrose and Vine, trying to gain access into the store to find if there are any looters left inside. It's a big store, so a lot of officers are responding to it.
It's a
to
pavilion.
Get in there
Where
and
is
figure
it?
out if anyone is left. This is Melrose and Vine.
And why are they going in there? Are there looters inside, or?
Yeah, so they had heard that there were looters inside. They already took a few into custody, but the doors were barricaded by the store, we believe. So they had to move everything out of the way in order to climb in there and get into the store. Yeah.
It's coming this way.
Ten four, Stephanie. Is the store okay? Is it okay if we stay on this? Just a sec. I wonder if we might have a pursuit. Wilcox and Santa Monica, but we also have we just have to wait a minute because they're going to use our pictures right now, and then we can. They're still deciding whether or not to follow it. It's going to be just off of Santa Monica and Wilcox. The airship's going there now. It's like kind of like Highland and Santa Monica. Jack, yeah, they all climbed in there. They're checking to see if if there's anyone else in there. We hear a following though, but we know that the booth is about to use our shot for a tease. So they're bailing. Never mind, it's over. Oh, yeah, 30 seconds. to the east, but that was rather interesting. You would think that they would have stayed here and focused on this crowd if their goal was to get them to disperse, but it looks like they got in here for a few minutes and are now leaving the scene.
Eliana, I wonder if it had anything to do with the fact the protesters got down there on the street with their arms raised over their heads. You know, we've seen banners saying, you know, hands up, and that's what they did. It's kind of a slogan that's been attached to many of these protesters. Do you think that had any effect on the sheriff's officers who were there and then they just left?
It very well could be, Chuck. Or the other thing that I'm thinking is there are a number of other calls in the area, calls that I could describe as more pressing. We know that there's still quite a bit of looting going on in the area, and we have seen dozens upon dozens of arrests. So you saw the sheriff's helicopter there in my shot just about a minute ago. I'll see if I can capture him one more time. But I know there he is. He's monitoring everything from up above, so he very well could have told the deputies on the ground, hey, I'll keep an eye on these guys. You guys continue on to those more pressing calls, and I'll just keep you posted on where they go from here, because besides blocking traffic, and there really isn't too much traffic at this point, these protesters really haven't been causing any issues. They have not been responsible for any of the vandalism or looting that we have seen today. And now they're continuing here eastbound on Sunset, coming up to Hayward.
You know, we can tell you our other chopper's in the air as well. News Chopper 4 Bravo. It's on its way to Riverside. We understand there are as many as 200 to 300 protesters in the downtown area there, sort of where the Mission Inn is, if you're familiar with that area. I was monitoring some of the pictures coming in upstairs. We know that sheriff's deputies and Riverside PD are getting ready to move in on them. So we'll keep an eye on the situation. We'll get to that. Ileana, this is one area in Hollywood right now, Hayward and Sunset. You've been flying all over this afternoon. Can you give us an idea of where some of the larger groups of protesters are right now, other than this?
This is probably the largest group that we've seen within this last hour, but we did go take a look at that protest group in the Westwood area. That was the group that you saw on the 405 freeway near the Wilshire Boulevard exit. We went to go take a look at those protesters to see where they were, and we actually found a good number of them. I'm going to say at least 24, if not 36 people, very close to, I believe it's going to be Beverly Glen and Wilshire, roughly that area near the golf course. And we saw that they were all being taken into custody by the LAPD. We did not notice any protesters near the Westwood Federal Courthouse. That whole area has cleared. The freeway has cleared. But we did notice that a number of the individuals that had been involved in that protest that eventually ended off on the 405 freeway, a lot of those people are now in police custody.
Eliana, was this group at all part of the other group that was over on Hollywood Boulevard where you showed us? I guess there were 20 people lined up on the curb there next to the Hollywood stars. Is this group a part of that, or is this totally separate?
I think that at one point, Chuck, they probably were part of the same group, because when we were flying over this crowd earlier, it was a lot larger than what we're seeing here right now. We estimated that it was a crowd of at least 400 people, if not more. And so what we're seeing here is significantly less than that. So at some point, I believe that they did split off, and that group has already been arrested, and not necessarily for looting. They are taking people into custody for looting, but just an overall reason why they're taking people into custody is for violating curfew. So one of the things I heard over the scanner is even if officers suspect that someone may have been looting, they don't really need that as a reason to take them into custody. They're just taking them into custody for breaking curfew. And of course, if they get information or they get surveillance footage that leads them to believe that that person could have possibly also been involved in looting, then they could add that charge later on. But for now, at least tonight, anyone who is out here past curfew will be taken into custody for being outside.
Ileana, we're looking at a split screen right now. What we're seeing, in addition to your live picture from News Chopper 4 Alpha, is the picture that you shot just a few minutes ago. This is that Pavilions. I believe it was on Melrose and Vine. Can you talk us through it a little bit? You know, we're looking at the officers at the front door.
That was fascinating to watch the officers climb through the doors of the pavilions. It's the store that's right at Melrose and Vine, as you said. They had gotten word that there was some looting going on inside. And the reason that the officers had such a tough time getting in the door was that the store, we believe it was the store, put up all sorts of barriers in the front of the door to try to keep people out, to keep people away from looting. That particular pavilions, I believe, has a pharmacy, and of course it has other items that looters would be interested in getting. And so we heard that there was some looting taking place. We went over there, and when we did, they already had about 10 or 12 people in custody sitting down on Vine, but the officers weren't sure if they had gotten everyone. The store is rather large, so what they did was they cleared a path for themselves by taking pallets down and taking other articles out of the way, and then they all started climbing over everything to get into the store. There was easily 20 officers that made their way into the store to check things out and see if anybody else was inside. We haven't heard if they found anybody else in addition to the people that they already had in custody, but they had to double check to be sure.
And Eliana, as we continue also to see on the left side of your screen, the protesters that you're overhead, they're still on Sunset, correct?
Correct. They're still on Sunset. They just passed over Fairfax. The next street coming up, I believe, is going to be Genesee, is what we're hearing. And I'm also listening to something on the scanner. There's a possibility that there could be either a following or pursuit in the area. We have heard about a few followings in the area about regarding possible looters. The officers will begin following those vehicles and eventually get them to pull over. So far, we haven't had a pursuit come out of it all, but they are now coming Sunset Boulevard and Genesee here in the Hollywood area.
Now, as we continue to look at this, we want to remind you there is a curfew. The mayor reminded us of that this afternoon. He said it is from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And simply put, it means you have to stay indoors. Doesn't mean you can drive on the street. Doesn't mean you can walk on the street. It means you have to stay inside. Ileana, these cars, this line of cars right here, would appear to be part of this procession of protesters here.
Some of them are part of the protest. You can look at this vehicle there, for example, the people hanging out the window. A car like this makes it pretty obvious to us, and we know that they're a part of the protest. The other vehicles, though, it's hard to tell. Really, everyone should be indoors by now, so it would lead us to believe that if these vehicles are following some of the protesters, they most likely are somehow involved with the protest and with the cause of having their voices heard this evening. But you can see that there's still quite a few cars out here. I mean, they really shouldn't be out here. It's past 6 o'clock. Again, whether you're in a car or whether you're on foot in the area, if you're out here past 6 o'clock, you could get arrested.
Eliana, do we have any idea where they're headed? I mean, is it possible they could be going back to their parked cars after participating most of the afternoon in this protest?
Are they headed eastbound or westbound? I'm kind of curious as well, Chuck.
Yeah, so they're going eastbound on Sunset, and I know that they started at Sunset and Crescent. So we're not too far from the area. Ideally, that's what they're doing, is walking back over to Crescent and Sunset where this all began. And I'm continuing to get a little distracted here because we're hearing again on the scanner, it sounds like there may be either a following or a pursuit in the area, and the vehicle may have attempted to run over some officers. So we're keeping an ear on that, and then also continuing to follow the protesters here as they make their way on Sunset coming up to Curson.
Now, we haven't heard any numbers on number of people arrested out there today, but we heard Chief Moore earlier say there'd been as many as 700 arrests, and I'm not sure if that was over the weekend or just yesterday. I think it may have been a culmination of Saturday and Sunday, but 75 people arrested for more serious crimes in LA County. And there you see they're starting to scatter again. Yeah.
Eliana, I'm kind of interested in the pursuit that you're listening to. Is it in this general area?
Yeah, it's in the general area. I'm trying to get the exact cross, and the airship overhead is actually He's on Crescent is what we're hearing, and Normandy. So we're going to see if we can maybe catch up to that. We can always come back to the protesters here.
Sure.
But we're hearing the airship. He's actually asking what the want is. He's wanted for shooting fireworks at officers as they were passing by. So I'm getting a direction right now. He's on Santa Monica and Vermont. Okay, and now they're calling it a pursuit. So let me punch it into my map here, and we are going to start heading in that direction. We should be there in about 2 minutes. Saro, if you want to head to the directly east.
Chuck, as we're looking at our picture there, that may be the reason we saw those black and whites take off from the location. They took off lights and I assume sirens as well. When they left the area and left the protesters there.
That could well be. It could well be.
Yeah, it looked like it was something of an emergency situation. And it's the second one. There was another one in Van Nuys this afternoon where the police there, the LAPD, was trying to keep track of a couple of looters. I don't know what the end result was, but it's a dangerous situation, very dicey, even though people are supposed to be off the street. You see more people walking in the street in some areas as part of this peaceful protest.
And we should also remind our viewers online that there is another kind of disturbing situation that's happening out in